A $2 billion Russian missile defense system got completely fried by a single American jet. We're talking 10,000 watts of electromagnetic energy cooking radar dishes like leftovers in a microwave. And the craziest part is the Russians couldn't even tell if the planes on their screens were real or just ghosts. So let me break down exactly how the US military pulls off this electronic magic trick. They've got 3 dirty tactics that can blind literally any enemy on the planet. The first one is called spot jamming. And honestly, it's pretty brutal. The second, a Growler jet picks up an enemy radar signal. It doesn't just mess with it a little bit. It blasts over 10 kilowatts of focused energy straight at that radar dish. Think of it like pointing a blowtorch at someone's laptop screen. 1 second, the operator sees everything. Next second, he sees absolutely nothing. Now, the second tactic is where things get really wild. The Growler can actually create fake fighter jets out of thin air. It catches the incoming radar pulse, scrambles the data, and fires it right back. Suddenly, the enemy radar lights up with dozens of ghost jets swarming toward them. So the radar operator panics and launches missiles at targets that literally don't exist. Those missiles blow up an empty sky while the real jets slip through completely untouched. The third tactic, though, this one's the real kicker. Say an enemy missile actually manages to lock onto a real American jet. The Growler immediately creates a perfect digital clone of that aircraft. Same speed, same altitude, same radar signature, everything identical. Once the enemy radar locks onto this fake signal, the Growler slowly drags it away. The missile blindly chases a ghost while the real pilot flies off completely safe. But here's the thing, most people don't realize about all this jamming stuff. It's not magic, and there's actually a serious danger zone. If an American jet gets within 20 to 60 miles of enemy radar, something called burn-through kicks in. Basically, the raw power of that radar eventually punches through all the jamming. That's why Growler pilots have to maintain this insane geometric dance right on the edge. Too close and you're dead. Too far and your jamming doesn't work. Alright, so let me walk you through how all of this actually comes together in a real mission. The Invisible War actually starts weeks before any fighter jet even takes off. American spy planes and satellites have been hovering just outside enemy airspace, quietly listening. They're hunting for the electronic fingerprints of every enemy radar system. All that intel gets compiled into what's basically a digital hit list. That data gets loaded directly into the targeting systems of the Navy's electronic attack jets. Meanwhile, military planners back at command aren't just drawing flight paths on a map. They're navigating a deadly 3D maze of threat rings around every enemy missile battery. They plot exact coordinates for safe zones where Growlers can orbit and blast jamming signals. These are the only spots where they can operate without getting blown out of the sky. When the strike package finally launches, it's like watching a perfectly choreographed machine. You've got Growlers handling electronic attack, F-35s and Super Hornets carrying the bombs, plus specialized jets loaded with radar-killing missiles ready to take out any system that lights up. Every single aircraft has a precise location, altitude, and down to the second timeline. Zero guesswork, zero room for error. Alright, so 30 minutes out from target, this is where things start getting intense. The Growlers reach their standoff positions about 50 to 100 miles from the target zone. They unleash a massive wave of broadband noise, blanketing the enemy's early warning screens. Everything the enemy sees turns into thick electronic fog. The goal right now isn't to hide, it's to completely blind their big picture view. Now we're 15 minutes out, and the strike fighters push into the kill zone. The Growlers move in closer to escort them, and the jamming shifts from sledgehammer to scalpel. They start injecting fake targets directly into enemy radar screens. They scramble speed and distance readings until the operators are drowning in false signals. These guys literally cannot tell which blips are real aircraft and which are digital ghosts. And this is where the enemy faces an absolutely impossible choice. If an operator realizes he's being jammed and cranks up his radar power to see through the noise, he just painted a giant bullseye on his own back. American jets instantly fire a harm missile that rides that radar beam all the way home. So the enemy's choice is basically impossible. Turn off your radar and go completely blind, or leave it on and get destroyed. There's literally no winning move here. But hold up, the Growlers aren't done yet. While the radars are getting blinded, they're also cutting the enemy's communication networks. They jam everything linking the missile batteries to Central Command. Even if some random battery operator spots an American jet, he can't get clearance to fire. He can't warn his allies. He can't coordinate with anyone. The entire air defense network just dissolves into a bunch of confused, isolated outposts, bombs away. But here's the thing, the danger isn't over yet. As the strike jets pull up to escape, they're flying low, slow, and extremely vulnerable. The Growlers don't let up for a single second during this phase. They maintain a deafening electronic scream, keeping the enemy blind until every aircraft crosses the horizon. Only then do they finally pull back. Now let me show you what this actually looks like when it all comes together in real combat. In a recent operation, Growlers proved exactly why America dominates the sky. Using an advanced mix of electronic warfare and cyber operations from space to ground level, the coalition injected false data directly into enemy radar screens. Top-tier air defense systems that were supposed to be cutting edge got absolutely overwhelmed. These weren't some outdated Cold War relics. These were modern, sophisticated systems. But here's the brilliant trap that really sealed the deal. The US launched hundreds of MALD decoys, basically tiny drones that look like fighter jets on radar, to a panicked radar operator staring at a chaotic screen. These little drones look exactly like F-15s. It looked like 50 fighter jets were screaming toward the capital all at once. So the defenders launched everything they had at these decoys. With the door kicked wide open, fifth-generation stealth fighters sliced through completely undetected. We're talking F-35s and possibly even F-22 Raptors moving through like actual ghosts. The entire air defense network wasn't just suppressed, it was completely dismantled. Now, electronic warfare isn't just limited to jets in the sky, though. Let me tell you what happened when a Ford-class aircraft carrier got involved. Everyone said this particular airspace was completely locked down. It was protected by Russian-made S-300 systems capable of swatting aircraft from 150 miles away. These are serious anti-aircraft systems, definitely not a joke. But during the operation, that myth of invincibility didn't just crack. It completely evaporated. The opening salvo didn't come from pilots. It came from pure physics. The USS Gerald R. Ford, stationed off the coast, unleashed electronic warfare so dense and powerful. It didn't just jam the enemy radar screens, it burned them completely white. The S-300 operators were totally blind before they ever saw the missiles coming. The first kinetic strikes were surgical precision from a destroyer. Tomahawk cruise missiles slammed directly into the radar arrays. In an instant, the eyes of the entire defense network turned into twisted red-hot scrap metal. But here's where electronic warfare gets genuinely terrifying. Some of the most dangerous systems come from those weird, disc-shaped objects attached to Black Hawk helicopters. Military experts call these soft-kill systems, and they're absolutely wild. So how do these things actually work? The most likely candidate is something called a high-power microwave device. It uses something called the Frey effect. And honestly, this is going to blow your mind. The weapon fires a focused beam of pulsed microwave energy. Not sound waves, actual microwaves. This beam passes right through the human skull like it's not even there. The microwave energy gets absorbed by the water in brain tissue and the fluid in your inner ear. This causes a tiny, rapid heating of the tissue. We're talking less than 1 degree. But that sudden expansion creates a pressure wave inside your skull. The target hears sounds, clicks, buzzing, maybe even a roar that originates inside their own head. It completely bypasses the eardrums. If the frequency is tuned to match the resonance of your inner ear, it violently disrupts your balance. You experience immediate intense vertigo out of nowhere. At higher power levels, that rapid tissue expansion can actually rupture capillaries. This leads to nosebleeds and internal trauma. There's also another possibility here, a weaponized infrasonic pulse emitter. Instead of a continuous beam, this thing fires high-intensity slugs of low-frequency air pressure. We're talking frequencies below 20 hertz, stuff you literally can't even hear. These waves travel through your body and match the resonant frequency of your internal organs. Your stomach, your lungs, they all start vibrating at frequencies they're not supposed to. High-intensity infrasound causes something called cavitation, basically bubbles forming in your bodily fluids. When those bubbles collapse, they create tiny shock waves that damage tissue from the inside out. The target feels an intense vibration in their gut, leading to severe nausea. You're basically paralyzed with pain and sickness. Tactically, this technology works as the ultimate force multiplier. In reported operations, hundreds of enemy guards weren't taken out in a traditional firefight. They were incapacitated, sick, dizzy and bleeding before any contact was even made. This allowed a small team of roughly 20 operators to walk virtually unopposed through a much larger force. No firefight, no casualties, just physics doing all the dirty work. So the next time you see a helicopter with some weird disc-shaped thing attached to it, just remember that thing might be carrying technology that can neutralize an entire army. Not with bullets, not with missiles, but by turning the enemy's own body against them. And that's what makes American electronic warfare so absolutely dominant. The enemy never sees it coming. And by the time they figure out what's happening, it's already over.